Most creators don't see burnout coming until it hits them in the face. And it's not because the signs weren't there. They're simply too focused on the wrong numbers. They're tracking CTR, views, subscribers, engagement rates. The problem with these metrics is they all measure what has already happened. You can't measure future views or future subscribers on videos that haven't been published yet. CTR, total views and subscribers, don't tell you if your workload is manageable behind the scenes or if your content pipeline is heading for a wall. So most creators only realize they're burned out when burnout is here, which means they had no time to do anything about it. I speak from personal experience here and learned that the hard way. So if you're struggling with your workload as a creator, you constantly feel behind and the pressure is building right now, I have 3 numbers for you that will help you get in front of this now, before burnout becomes real. Fact is, what isn't measured cannot be improved. The whole idea with tracking CTR, total views, and so on is to improve our videos. But there is a huge disconnect between making better videos and running an entire content operation without burning out. New subscribers rolling in and your views going up don't mean anything if your content operation gets so complex over time that burnout is the logical outcome. And it doesn't happen overnight, it's a gradual process. First uploads are a little late. The list with topics keeps growing faster than ideas can be turned into content. And then there's the occasional missed upload, which eventually turns into 2 or 3 weeks of no upload at all. So that's not a sudden failure, it's a slow one. And somewhere between that first late upload and 3 weeks of no upload at all, there were signs that the pressure was building. But if I'm only focused on CTR and views and subscribers, I don't see this and I won't catch it in time. Interestingly enough, like any outcome that builds gradually over time, we can measure burnout before it's happening. The problem is most creators are looking at the wrong numbers to do that. As I said, views and subscribers tell you what already happened. The numbers I'm talking about measure what's about to happen. 3 metrics or 3 numbers, and each one tracks a different part of your content operation. I'll walk you through what they measure and what to do when the numbers are off. And at the end, I'll give you a single rule that connects all 3 of them. So definitely keep watching to the end. The first number to keep an eye on is what we can call content debt. It's simply the gap between how much I plan to publish and how much I actually publish. So I take the number of videos I intended to publish last month or the month before and deduct the number I actually published. That difference is my content debt for that period. So let's just say I wanted to do 4 videos and I ended up publishing 3. Then my content debt is 1. Now, if the following month I plan to do 4 and publish 2, my running debt goes up to 3, 1 plus 2, because the numbers accumulate here. There is no resetting your content debt at the end of the month. And this matters as a burnout signal, not just as a content output problem. Every piece of content I plan but I don't publish doesn't appear from my mental workload, right? It sits there. It shows up every time I open my content plan as an unpublished or unfinished product. And it generates this low level pressure in the background every single week. That pressure compounds into real friction at some point, which is what makes me feel like I'm already behind before I even start anything new. Like most creators, I used to deal with content debt the same way. I pushed harder the next week or maybe the week after that, working longer hours to get more output. So, classic catch up mode. And it works maybe once or maybe twice, but it doesn't really address why the debt accumulates in the first place. The same work routine that created the gap last month will recreate it next month as well, unless I do something about it upfront, not after the fact. So I came up with this warning threshold for myself. If my content debt is growing for 3 weeks in a row, that's a red flag. It means what I want to do is more ambitious than what I can manage to do. My planned output is bigger than my production capacity can handle. Like, I want to publish 2 20-minute videos a week, but I can only manage to do one. Now, the fix here is not to work more to get the 2 videos done per week. It's to step back and reevaluate my publishing schedule to what I can actually manage week after week without running myself into the ground. If you look at my channel and the publishing dates, you can clearly see I started with a lot of ambition and 2 videos or even 7 shorts a week before I accepted the reality of what I can manage realistically as a business owner who has other stuff to do. And I'm not lying when I say it hurts my ego that I had to scale back. But I plan to do YouTube for a while consistently. A schedule I can keep up indefinitely beats an overly ambitious one I burn out on in 3 months. Every single time, by the way. So, long story short, look at your content ad. How much are you planning versus how much are you actually publishing? Which brings us to another question, or, well, the second number then, that'll help you avoid creator burnout. How much time do you actually spend on making content? Or what's your production ratio if you want a more technical term for it? So, not planning content, not thinking about it, not reviewing old videos or checking analytics again. I'm talking about active production work, the scripting, the recording, the editing, the publishing, and whatnot. And this one really surprised me, to be honest, because I thought I was putting serious hours into making content. But when I calculated the bare numbers, it turned out my assumptions and reality didn't match at all. I spent way less time making content than I thought I would. And here's how you can calculate that. So take last week, add up your total working hours for the week, then add up only the hours spent in active production. Divide production hours by total working hours and multiply by 100. That's the ratio in percent. For example, last week I worked 47 hours and I spent 16 hours on active content production. So my ratio here is 34%. That means I only spend roughly a third of my time on content, 2/3 on something else that's not content production. All of this is work, but none of it is content production. So I dare you to run the numbers here. Chances are you think you do a lot more content than you actually do, because there is a ton of anything else that needs to be taken care of. The emails, the searching for files you know you saved somewhere on 5 different hard drives, the thumbnail tweaks on videos that are 2 months old. Now, don't get me wrong, these things are important and they can't be ignored for sure. Like, no doubt about it. Hashtag admin matters. Yeah. So, I'm not suggesting you eliminate that to push your production ratio to 60 or 70%. I'm suggesting you measure it in the first place. So, you know what's actually happening with your time instead of assuming you're spending it on content creation when in fact you're not. Because here's the thing, if your production ratio consistently drops below 30%, your operation is completely upside down. Less than a third of your entire work week goes toward content production, the thing your business model is built on, supposedly. Now, the supporting tasks are consuming more time than the content itself. And that is not a motivation issue or lack of passion on your part. That's an efficiency problem within your system, which means there is a system solution to that. Personally, I have my threshold set to 30%. Below that, and I'm in the red. But my fix is not to add more working hours to my week to compensate for that. It's to identify which tasks repeat without variation and then build a system around them one by one. I'm talking about little things like a file naming convention I set up once and I never question again. Or bigger things like the metadata package template that I can reuse for every future video. You can call these things 1% improvements if it makes you feel better. They don't look like much by themselves, but put together, they give me back serious time I would waste on inefficiency otherwise. And they definitely shift my ratio without adding extra hours to my week. Chances are you want the same thing, better output in less time. For that, you need effective operational systems, though, not just for YouTube, but for the behind the scenes business aspect of it all. especially if you're a one-man or a one-woman show. And that's exactly why I put together my free one-page solopreneur operating system here. It gives you a simple structure for running your business alongside content creation workflows with more clarity and a lot less chaos. Link is in the description below. Okay, so if you do not want to get surprised by burnout, there is one more number you should consider. And it's a bit of an odd one. How many days has it been between your last published video and the next one being ready for shooting? If we look at the three-step content pipeline, it's the time between the distribution step finished and the next production step starting. So how long does it take you to go through the loop? For example, if I publish on Wednesday and by Friday I shoot the next video, my recovery time or lag would be 2 days. If it takes me until the Wednesday after to shoot, it's 7 days. Now, why does this matter? Well, basically, content that first number we looked at tells you something already went wrong in your system because you start building up a pile of unpublished content. Production ratio, the second number, tells you the system is under strain right now, especially if you spend less than a third of your total working hours on content creation. But recovery time tells you something is about to go wrong before the debt accumulates and before the ratio even drops. It's the earliest of the three signals because it looks at the front end of the pipeline or the ideate step. When there are no new ideas being developed, the rest of the operation doesn't slow down gradually in this case. It immediately stops. This happens when I sit down to plan another video, but I have no ideas. Or I start drafting a script, then delete it, start a second one, and end my workday with nothing usable. Most creators think of this as writer's block or, well, creative block, algorithm fatigue, or a sign they've run out of things to say. It's not. It's a broken ideate step within that content pipeline. It doesn't matter how creative you are. If ideas don't move fast enough to publishing, the system breaks eventually. You simply can't publish what you haven't produced yet. That's why my goal is to never start a video completely from zero. So I make sure I have a list with content ideas that I refill regularly. And I mean, nowadays it's easier than ever to do that. 15 minutes of keyword research or a conversation with any AI tool like vidIQ will do the trick. I literally use this prompt here. Given my last 3 to 5 published videos, what's the next topic cluster I can make 2 to 3 videos about? The result is not always on point, of course, but it gets me thinking so that when the time comes to do the next video, I do not completely start from zero. Maybe that's not a hardcore metric after all and more of a feeling I'm after. But I can tell you from personal experience, this one lets me sleep at night because I know I have ideas for the next few weeks. That being said, there is a rule we need to talk about. Now, generally speaking, I do not freak out if one of my three numbers isn't working out. When I go on vacation, I already know my production ratio is pretty much going to zero during that time. I might even miss an upload or two, but that doesn't mean I'm at risk of burning out or that I need to restructure my whole content operation here. One metric being off every once in a while is not the end of the world. But the rule is when two metrics or two numbers are in the red, for more than 2 weeks, I need to take a step back and see what's going on. Because it's a warning sign within my content system, not just another couple of hard weeks I should compensate for by hustling harder or working longer hours. I want to identify immediately if I'm running out of ideas, if I'm spending 80-90% of my time on anything but content creation, or if I'm actually missing uploads completely. The goal with all of this is not to have perfect numbers all the time. The goal is to have visible numbers. So right now, most content creators out there are running an operation based on their feelings, not metrics or numbers. And feelings are the worst warning system there is. Why else would people get hit in the face with burnout that they didn't see coming? The signs were there after all. Burnout is rarely a motivational failure. I can't say that often enough. For most content creators, it's the logical outcome when their workload gets too complex for them to handle without clear systems. In the previous part, I talked about the three root causes building on each other until the operation collapses. Lack of load distribution, no circuit breaker, no maintenance window or review. Those help to figure out what causes your system to be under pressure. Now, with the three numbers on top of that, we've built a measurement layer, and that'll help you get in front of any system failure potentially coming your way, potentially leading to burnout. Content that tells you whether your planned output is higher than the capacity you can handle realistically. Production ratio, the second number, tells you if your content creation is consumed by all the other stuff you do. Recovery time, the third number, tells you if your front end or your pipeline is about to run dry. And the rule we talked about gives you a clear pre made decision about when to stop and reassess. And before the system breaks, before burnout is going to be a thing, not after the fact. But keep in mind that none of these numbers matter if no one is doing the measuring in the first place. And I mean on a consistent schedule at the same time every single week. Most creators know they should be reviewing their systems more regularly, but very few do it consistently. Not because they lack discipline, but because there is no proper routine or habit in place yet. And that's exactly what we fix in the next part. I'll walk you through a 30-minute review specifically focused on content creation. We take the numbers and fold them into a quick review. You run it once every week, same day, same time, and together this becomes the mechanism that makes your content operation manageable without burning out. So, thanks for watching this part, and I see you in the next one.